How's it going, everybody? I am the Texas Man. I hope you guys are all having a fabulous day. Please give this video a thumbs up if you guys really enjoy it. Subscribe if you guys have not already. Also, do me the biggest favor of all, hit that bell notification button so you guys don't miss out on a single video coming out here in the future here on the Texas Man channel. Also, head over to Twitch. Follow me, Douglas447, no caps, no spaces. And in case you guys are wondering why I keep wearing this, it's because at the time of me making this video, it is May the 4th be with you 2020, guys. So I don't know exactly when this video is going up, but yeah, today was Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. And make sure you guys check out my May the 4th 2020 video for songs. And I also did a special video for you guys here on the channel for May Revenge of the 5th. So make sure you guys check out that video. Hope you guys will enjoy it. And of course, let's get back into what this actual video is about. This is for The Island 2, The Creature. This is going to be part number 2. If you guys haven't watched the parts for the first Island book, make sure you guys watch those videos before you jump into this. And of course, make sure you guys check out The Island 2 part 1 before you guys continue on with this. With that, of course, we're getting into part 2 and we are continuing on. This will be chapter 2, Spikes. Year 2004. Oh, also real quick, I apologize for any noise in the background. I got a neighbor that's cutting their grass right now at 9 p.m. for whatever freaking reason, so I apologize for that. Alright, back into this. Year 2004. 8 years after the realization that the group would be stuck on the island, they had completed their cabin and the shaft, yet only 20% had been completed on the underground tunnel system. During one night, the 43-year-old scientist looked at Miller's 18-year-old son into the shaft. Took Miller's 18-year-old son into the shaft and showed Chris the area inside of the tunnel. Since you have come of age, Jack will offer you the position to work with us in the tunnel, said Bobby Hayes. Really? Asked Chris, in amazement. Really, really, replied Nick Hayes, Bobby's twin brother. Clatter sounds filled the enormously sized area. This place smells like smoky bacon, said Chris, with Bobby and Nick following behind him deeper into the tunnel. Well, that comes from the fact that we do not always leave the tunnel on a daily basis and need to eat, said Bobby. Chris, let's head back to the surface, said Nick. Why? I haven't seen the rest of the tunnel, asked Chris. Another time, said Nick. Chris wondered what secrets were being kept from him. However, he had no choice but to return to the surface. The group exited out of the tunnel, using a built-in metal ladder, left the creepy wooden shaft, and entered the main level cabin to rest. Everyone had their own rooms in the cabin, yet shared the bathroom, the kitchen, and the living room. The bathroom had a sink with a pipe to the ocean for water, and a toilet with a pit no less than 200 feet deep. There was no need to build a shower because the group just went swimming in the ocean to clean off. The kitchen had a wood table with 6 chairs and cabinets for fruits and any meat caught that day. There was no freezer, microwave stove, or oven. There was just a sink with a pipe to the ocean for running water and a pot with a candle to light a flame to remove the salt. The living room was the smallest room in the cabin and consisted of only a couple wooden chairs, wood table, and 4 board games made all of wood. All these rooms, including the sleeping rooms, were located on the first floor. In the basement were baskets of pineapples and shelving units that held 7 machine guns, along with numerous clips of bullets. The sun that was setting in the west was casting a sparkling gaze among the ocean's water. Jack and the rest of the group were quieting down for the night and were inside of the kitchen sitting down in their chairs. Jack stood up from his chair, which was placed as center focus among the others, and breathed. Before we go our separate ways for the night, gentlemen, I have an announcement to declare about somebody, said Jack. Bobby and Nick smiled because they knew what was about to occur. Chris Miller, you have turned to the age of 18 as of today, and with that comes new responsibilities while with us. As of tomorrow, you'll have the honor of no longer hunting for food with your father, but instead you will be moved to the shaft to help Bobby and Nick in the tunnel using the drill, said Jack. Sawyer was very upset that Jack was pulling his son away from his daily chores. Sawyer was also upset that Jack was using his powers as leader over their limits. The similar thoughts were also running through Chris's mind as well, and wondered what would happen in the next moments when he gave his response to the rising tyrant. Thank you very much for your offer, Mr. Woodson. Yet I would prefer to stay above ground for the time being, said Chris. This is not an offer, Chris. This is tradition on this island, said Jack. Perhaps you should rule on another island then, said Chris, rudely. Jack was angered at what Chris spoke to the leader and wanted to smack the young man across the head, yet controlled his emotions and resisted the temptation to cause harm. You will be working on the tunnel tomorrow with Bobby and Nick, or else I'll banish you from this camp forever and permanently, said Jack. As you wish, Mr. Woodstuck-up-your-butt, said Chris, opening the cabin's door, dashing out of the cabin, and slamming the door behind him. Jack, you banish him tomorrow? Then I'm gone with my son, said Sawyer, giving Jack the look of an angered father. Sawyer ran outside of the cabin, found his son sitting by the ocean crying, and hugged his son. I love you, son, and if you leave Beach Base, then so do I, said Sawyer. Thank you, Dad, said Chris. As the night continued onwards, Sawyer and Chris returned to the cabin and walked to their rooms to sleep. Hours later, Bobby and Nick awoke from their sleep and awoke Chris. What do you guys want? Asked Chris. To get you out of here before you have to either work in the tunnel or face off with Jack to the death in a few hours, said Nick. Are you coming with me? Asked Chris. For some of the journey, we'll help you find a spot you can live where Jack would never find you, said Bobby. Chris, Bobby, and Nick left Chris's room, took a machine gun with ammunition clips and food from the basement, and walked towards the cabin door. What about my father? Can he come with me? Asked Chris. We can't risk more noise that would wake up Jack and have him notice us leaving Beach Base without his permission, said Bobby. The group of three men stealthily left the cabin, walked past the shaft, which was housing the entrance to the tunnel, and dashed into the dense jungle. Good luck out there, Chris, said John through his bathroom window made of glass from the crashed plane. Chris, Bobby, and Nick walked and walked for hours on end and started to realize it was getting colder as they traveled deeper in the island's interior. Sorry, guys. Just something. We must be near the south side of Polar Mountain, said Bobby. Get down, everybody, said Chris. The three men lowered their bodies to see a clearing in the jungle. In the clearing stood a cafeteria-like cabin, and parked next to the structure's right was a black pickup truck. Let's go see if anyone is in there, said Chris. If you want to go walk further into this freezing area of the island, then you go without me, said Bobby. Chris looked at Nick and hoped that he would join him. I'm not going anywhere near that place, said Nick. You guys are 43 years old and won't check out a cabin in the middle of nowhere? You guys need to get out of that tunnel more often, said Chris, while walking away from his friends and towards one of the many glass windows of the cabin. Snow continued to fall down from the sky as Bobby and Nick watched Chris slowly walk towards the unknown cabin. Chris could hear banging sounds inside of the cabin and could see smoke rising from a tower in the ceiling of the structure. Chris crept to the side of the cabin and was on the left side of one of the glass windows, where he was able to see a stove with a pot on it, overflowing with burning water. Chris slowly ducked underneath the window by trending through the 3 inches of snow and prepared to see what was inside the cabin in the middle of nowhere. I hope he knows what he's doing, said Nick. Chris lifted his head so that only his eyes and nothing else was visible in the window, and stared inside to see a dark black figure standing by a metal table. The dark figure was making the banging sound with a knife that was chopping a large piece of some sort of freshly killed meat. Suddenly, the dark figure ceased chopping the meat, looked to see the pot overflowing onto the floor of expensive tiles, and disappeared from Chris's sight. Chris lowered his body, hoping that the figure did not see him. Chris looked up 10 seconds later to see that the mess on the floor was cleaned, the pot was gone from the stove, and the knife was hanging on a pole near a door. Yet the meat was still on the same table. Chris continued to look through the window, and out of nowhere the dark figure walked past the window. Chris was so frightened by the figure that he fell backwards in the snow. Chris shook the snow, Chris shook the snow off of him and looked up to see the dark figure placing its face up against the window and staring directly at the young man. Chris stood up and bolted into the jungle where Bobby and Nick were watching Chris. "Chris, what happened?" asked Bobby. "We have to leave," said Chris in a frantic tone. "Why? What's wrong?" asked Nick. "That," said Chris, pointing his right arm towards the dark figure, which was standing outside of the cabin near the window Chris looked through, and that was staring at the group of 3 men. "Let's get out of here and report back to Jack at Beach Base," said Nick. "What? You want to go back when we just left without orders?" asked Chris. "I would rather Jack yell at us than be dinner to some odd figure in the jungle," said Nick. "Fine," said Chris. The group of 3 people dashed away from the cabin and pickup truck and ran all the way east back towards Beach Base, not knowing what the stranger would do after seeing them at this place. After traveling through the tropical trees that made up the dense jungle, the group arrived at a point where the jungle was behind them and the forest protected with wooden spikes mounted into the sand to make a wall from outsiders stood in front of them. The sun arose while Nick opened the entrance to Beach Base, and everyone quickly closed the metal door. "Well, hello there," said Jack, walking out of the cabin and greeting the 3 rule breakers. "We can explain," said Nick. "I'm sure you can, and will try to get me to understand why you would break my rule about never leaving Beach Base without my authorization, and aiding Chris in disobeying the traditions," said Jack, while John and Sawyer came out of the cabin behind Jack. "What seems to be the problem?" asked Sawyer. "Lee decided to leave Beach Base without me giving permission, and helped Chris leave us behind," said Jack. I'm not sure why I was asking you, Jack," said Sawyer, looking at Chris. "We wanted to be sure there were no more creatures on the island," replied Chris. "If there were creatures on the island, they would have attacked us already in the past 8 years," said Jack. "Not if there's just one of them living alone," replied Chris. So you did not help Chris leave because of what took place last night?" asked Jack, looking at the twins. "We did both of what you spoke of earlier, Jack," said Nick. Jack walked up to Bobby and Nick and punched them in the gut. Bobby and Nick crashed to the ground, and Chris, Sawyer, and John ran towards Jack to end his tyranny. Jack pushed Chris away when in strike distance, and punched Sawyer in the right leg. Nick and Bobby stood up and leaped on top of Jack. Jack used his muscles and threw the twins into the sand near Chris. John drew out 2 of his 12 knives from his belt and placed one in each of his hands. Jack put up his fist and dodged John's swinging attacks with his knives to kick John in the groin. John collapsed to the ground and stood up to face Jack again. Jack charged towards John, slipped on a piece of rubber, and got pinned down by John with a knife near his throat. Chris, Bobby, Sawyer, and Nick stood up with their injuries and looked at Jack, who was no longer all-powerful. "I am not sure what has come over you in the past 8 years, Jack, but ever since we defeated Spike, you have been taking the role of leader to the role of a tyrant. We have had enough of it, and we are through with you," said John. I never meant to harm anyone or become a tyrant. I only wanted everyone to always stay safe under my leadership. I realize that my actions have been that of a tyrant, and with that said, I resign my role as leader of this group," said Jack. John released Jack from his entrapment. John put away his knives on his belt, and everyone stared at Jack. "I am sorry for the trouble, for the pain, and for my prideful views of safety. I resign from leader of this group," said Jack, crying and turning red. "We must have a leader to keep things balanced," said Bobby. "Who will it be?" asked Chris. "I say it be put to a vote," said Nick. "No, there's only one of us that has the ability to be our leader," said Sawyer, looking directly at Jack. Jack looked at Sawyer to realize that he had placed his vote, even after Jack tried to separate Chris from Sawyer from their daily duties. Sawyer walked over to Jack and placed an arm around Jack's shoulders. Those who want this man here to be our leader forever, no matter what sin he commits, come over here and hug him," said Sawyer. Everyone walked over to Jack, and the 6 people had a group hug. "So what now?" asked John to Jack when the hug was over. "Let's suit up on supplies, weapons, and ammunition, and travel to this area where Chris, Bobby, and Nick saw this creature," said Jack. Everyone geared up on supplies, a machine gun, and ammunition, yet Jack grabbed 2 machine guns. The 7th gun Jack found one day floating on the shore a few clicks south of Beach Base, where old footprints of a woman in high heels must have left it. The group left Beach Base and began the journey into the jungle, not knowing what awaited them on their quest. Now that Jack was put in check as leader, the group was able to enjoy his company more. As the 6 white men walked endlessly through the jungle of towering trees, they told jokes and played I Spy. The I Spy game did not last very long because of the constant answer either being the trees, the dirt, the ground, the sky, or a person around them. Eventually the weather changed dramatically from that of tropical to frigid after walking for uncountable hours, and the humans looked to see something walking about in the distance. "Let's keep it silent until we know what it is for sure that is walking out here," said Jack. The team of armed humans lowered their bodies to a crouching position, aimed their machine guns in the direction where they saw the strange figure walking around, and waited for Jack's direction. "Chris, lead the way to this cabin and truck," said Jack. Chris led the way through the maze of fallen pine trees, the towers of piled up snow that was at least 4 inches tall, and soon came to a point where Chris lowered his body flat on the snowy ground. Everyone else lowered their bodies, and Jack crawled up towards Chris's position. "What's going on?" asked Jack. "We have arrived," replied Chris, pointing towards the cafeteria-looking cabin and the pickup truck. "While I peeked around through a window, I saw something inside. The structure appears to have one level, yet it could have a basement that I'm not aware of at the moment," said Chris. Is there a doorway in, or are we going to have to smash the windows to get inside of that thing?" asked Jack. "On the left side of the building there is a door," replied Chris. "Let's go explore the interior," said Jack. Jack took lead as the team of 6 approached the cabin cautiously, and soon he saw the door on the left side of the building. "Any ideas of what is inside of this thing?" asked John, as Jack placed his right hand on the doorknob. "Not a clue," replied Jack. Jack opened the door, and the team rushed into the building and hid behind the cover of a metal table. "Hello?" said a voice, coming from behind a door. The door was opened to reveal a dazzling sight. A not-so-evil dark figure had blonde hair and blue eyes, and was all in all a beauty. The group stood up from their positions of cover and lowered their weapons. "Who are you?" asked John. The woman looked at all 6 of the men, staring at Jack for a few moments, and began to cry. What was even stranger to the men was when Jack also focused on the woman only and began to cry as well. "Kate, is that really you?" asked Jack, crying still. "Yes, my love," answered the woman. Jack and Kate walked over to each other, kissed and hugged each other on the lips for what seemed like an eternity. The atmosphere had quickly changed from that of a horror hunt for a dark figure to a cheerful reunion with 2 spouses. The 5 men thought the whole reunion was odd, yet fair, since neither one of them had seen each other in over 8 years. "Gentlemen, this is my wife, Kate Woodson," said Jack, ending the kissing moment. "I thought you said she drowned when Flight 193 sunk in the ocean," said Sawyer. "I almost did. However, several events transpired that saved my life," said Kate. "How did you escape the buckle trap?" asked Jack, clearing up his tears, as did Kate. "After the plane got moved with an underwater current, the vessel hit the ocean's bottom, and the buckle broke. I swam ashore and built this cabin here, since I found the pickup truck outside with a rocket launcher with 4 shells, grenades, and a shotgun. I wanted to locate the other survivors, yet I feared that with all the evil people and polar bears on this island, I thought that you would have been killed off soon," said Kate. "How old are you?" asked Jack. "No one can age on the island," replied Kate, Actually, people and creatures can, since the destruction of a device, said Jack. Are you referring to Sue's time machine that she built in a bunker? Asked Kate. The men were shocked to realize Kate had met Sue, Flint's wife, before Sue's death. Correct. After the time machine's destruction, the island's magic property of controlling age was lost, but not the magnetic field that caused the plane crash, said Jack. You met Sue? Asked John. Yes, a long time ago she visited my cabin, and days later I found her remains near the entrance to the bird cage, said Kate. Kate, I would like you to return to our base, codenamed Beach Base, tomorrow morning and join our group, said Jack. Definitely, said Kate. All of a sudden the ground began to rattle and the entire island shook. Everything that was on the hooks in the cabin was falling off, and the group of seven wondered what was happening. After 2 minutes of the unending earthquake, another island located south of the one the group was on, and a land bridge that connected the two land masses, had risen out of the water. What was that? Asked Jack, looking at his wife. I have no idea. That was the first earthquake I've experienced on this island during my time here, answered Kate. Let's get some sleep before our journey back to Beach Base in the morning, said Jack. And that's going to do it for me, guys. This has been part 2. I will, of course, be continuing on reading this book for you guys with part 3 coming out very soon. You guys have a good one. Bye, guys.